What is the appropriate way to prepare for and write a pan to the Rebbe?
First of all, what is a pan? A pan is a pidyon nefesh. The literal translation of the word pidyon nefesh is a redemption of the neshama, of the soul. That means, in other words, that by definition a pan is a neshama note. When you give the Rebbe the note, which is called a pan, you're basically giving him your soul. And you're saying to the Rebbe, you're a Rebbe. That means you're a soul person, you're a neshama person. Fix my neshama. There's a story which is true. The Rabbi Groner says, that when the Rebbe became Rebbe, the Rebbe took pidyonis. And the Rebbe observed, the Rebbe commented, that in the pre-Dikendar, in the previous generation, there were 2 or 3 people who were able to take pidyonis. The Rebbe did the Rebbe the Shver, the Friedrich Rebbe, the Heilige Belzerov, the holy and godly Belzer Rebbe, and I think in one version he said also the Gerer Rebbe, the Imre Yemes. And then the Rebbe said, Ich will probieren, I'll try. Because this is not a question of helping people by giving them advice or redirecting their lives. This is a spiritual thing entirely. A pidyon nefesh is a completely spiritual thing. When you write a pan to the Rebbe, you're giving your neshama to the Rebbe, or you're strengthening the natural connection between your neshama and the neshama of the neshama klolos, which is the Rebbe, the Nasi Adar, so you can redeem your neshama. Which means you understand very little of what's accomplished. The Rebbe understands. Which is why in a pidyon nefesh, the most important thing, and perhaps the only thing really necessary, is Shmoi v'Shem Ima, your name and your mother's name. Because that's the label of the neshama. The ticket to the soul is your Hebrew name. And of course, we all know the incredible stories where people would make a mistake in the name, and the Rebbe would say that he doesn't recognize it, there's a mistake here, until it was corrected, and then say, oh, now it makes sense, because this was a neshama speaking about a neshama. And when a neshama speaks about a neshama and it's the wrong name, he doesn't recognize it. That's what a pan is. Now I want to tell you a story. A story which is, I don't know how helpful, but at the same time very, very helpful. Rabbi Kanzel's eingesund und stark came to the Rebbe when he was approximately 20. Before he came to the Rebbe, he was advised by his mashpiyim, Reb Sheil Brook, Olav Sholem Mistamer Reb Meshe Gurari, to learn how to write a pan. And Sheil Brook and Meshke Gurari were very big Hasidim. They were Tmimim. I mean, compared to us, they were in another universe. But they told them, Rabbi and his friends, that they can't teach them how to write a pan. They should go to an even greater Chassid, a Chassid by the name of Reb Zalman Meshe. Reb Zalman Meshe at that point was after a stroke. He was an elderly Jew. He was in his 70s, I believe. And he was a Baal Mesiras Nefesh. Reb Zalman Meshe was, when he passed away, the Rebbe wrote about him Zatzal. He was a tzaddik. He was a Gora Geheb Nerid. So they came to him, and they said they're going to the Rebbe. At that time it was the previous Rebbe. By the time they arrived, the previous Rebbe had passed away, but they didn't know that. And they asked him to show them how to write a pan. He said, okay, bring a piece of paper. So they brought a piece of paper and a pen. He picked it up and started crying. And he cried 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 and he cried. He said, come tomorrow, I'll teach you. And they came the next day and they brought a piece of paper and a pen, and the same thing repeated itself. He couldn't write a word. So he didn't teach them how to write a pan. But he taught them how not to write a pan. In other words, what the Zalman Meshe was saying to them is, maybe I can write a pan, but I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for it yet. Because to write a neshama note to a neshama klolis about the relationship between one neshama and another neshama is so deep that the Zalman Meshe simply couldn't do it at that particular point. Now, why am I telling you the story? The point of this story is not to be discouraging. In other words, say, okay, forget about it, we can't do it. The point of the story is to make the point that a pan is a very deep thing. It's an incredibly deep thing. But we can only do our best. We cannot write a pan like the Meshe Valenkir or Zalman Zezmer or Yamin Kleski wrote a pan or Pinchas Reizes, because we're not them. We're simple, small little people. So on the one hand, we have to understand the seriousness and the holiness of a pan. And then we have to say to ourselves, what is the best pidyon I can write on my level? Because we can't write Pidyanis like the great Chassidim, who would actually experience the bond between their neshama and the neshama of the Nasi Ador, of the Rebbe, the Nasi B'Yisrael. So on our levels, how do you write a pan? And of course the point is, when you're writing upon, the spirit of the pan is your relationship with your own neshama, with your own godliness, which we can call by many names. We can call it our own humility, we can call it our own sacrifice, we can call it our own clarity, we can call it our own faith, we can call it our own joy, we can call it our own love. All the deepest, most important qualities that a Jew has, that are spiritual qualities. And the meaning of the word spiritual is altruistic qualities, non-reciprocal. I'm going to get nothing back. The emes of my neshama, the emes of my person, wants to write the Pidyon Nefesh. The part of me, when he has Avas Yisrael, it's not about getting something back. It has to write the pan. So the preparation for writing the Pidyon Nefesh, and of course, everything has to do with our own personal level. And we're on a very tiny level. The idea of the writing the Pidyon has to be preceded by a meditation, by a contemplation of what my neshama means to me. And what the neshama of a person means to him is his own emes. The part of ourselves which we frequently suppress because we can't afford it. Emes is very costly. Truth is painful. The emes is costly. We all have an emes. And on some level we know that emes. But we also have a pragmatism, a chesed, a self-love. And the Pidyon Nefesh has to come from the maximum amount of emes that we consciously know about ourselves that we're able to muster. And along with writing the Pidyon from the midas emes within ourselves, needs to be the commitment to behaviorally live our lives a little bit more according to that midas emes, so that the request for the Pidyon Nefesh should be translated into an actual event of Pidyon Nefesh.